Okay. I'd like to discuss registration today. You know, your thoughts, my thoughts. You know, what's the deal with registration? Okay, first and foremost, New York State registers handguns, not long guns. I heard from my brother-in-law's twin brother, they all live in People's Republic of New Jersey, that the People's Republic of New Jersey now registers Red Ryder BB guns. Yeah. California now registers long guns because they wanted to re-elect one of the worst governors in their history. Washington D.C., New York City. I think Illinois. Does Illinois register long guns? Well, about 25% of the states register handguns. New York is one of them. I heard somewhere that this is totally constitutional because under the common law, guns have been registered. So it's, you know, the courts were asked, should we abolish registration? And the courts said, well, a lot of states register guns. It's not that fucking bad. Well, they didn't say, the judges didn't say fuck, but you get the idea. New York State registers handguns. And every state has their own requirements and shit. Every county has their own requirements. For instance, my county, you go to the county, you get the application, you pay $10 cash. You fill out the application. Now, New York State is very careful to make sure a criminal doesn't get a hold of a legal gun. They're probably more careful than they need to be. They ask you every question about drug abuse, alcohol abuse, drunk driving, beating up your mother, you know, being in a mental institution, attempting suicide, getting kicked out of school, you know, starting fights with people. They ask you every question you can fucking imagine. Now, in your packet, you have a registration thing for your first handgun. You go to your dealer, you buy your handgun. He writes the make, model, serial number, caliber. He stamps it. When you submit your application, you are simultaneously submitting your first gun registration. And when your application is approved, you go down to the courthouse in person. They want to make sure the guy that submitted the application is the same guy that's picking up the application, the license. They take another picture of you, take your thumbprint, and they give you a license right then and there. You go back to your gun dealer, you show him your license, he gives you the gun that you bought 2 months ago, 3 months ago, whatever. And your first registration, you could look at it as your first registration being free, or you could look at it as the $10 fee including your first registration. Okay? After that, every time you want to buy a new gun, there's no waiting period in New York State, but here's the catch. You go to the gun dealer, you buy the new gun. He gives you a form, name, make, model, serial number, caliber. He stamps it. You have to bring it to a notary public. You're not allowed to notarize yourself. You're not allowed to notarize your intimate partner, and you're not allowed to notarize any of your housemates. But you go to the bank, there are notaries. I think every lawyer is a notary. My mother's assistant notarizes my stuff. And there's another guy in the office who collects guns. My mother's assistant notarizes his as well. Notary of public just stamps it, signs it, that's the end of it, okay? You can find the notary of public. You mail it into the county with a $3 check. It takes about a week and a half to mail it back to you, and then you go to your dealer and you say, look, they accepted my registration, give me my gun. They are legally not allowed to stop you unless you are a criminal, or you are being indicted, or you have a restraining order. If the county tells you, or your state tells you, we do not want to register your gun, we do not accept it, you're not allowed to buy it, they have got to give you a reason. And if they don't give you a reason, get a lawyer. Check some. Okay. Checking the power and shit like that. Okay. Now, I just do the mailing. I mail it in, they get it, they sign it, they stamp it, they get it back, another big fucking deal. And every 5 years, they mail you a form saying, license is gonna be up soon. Fill this out. I filled it out during a commercial break. Just fill out your name, your address, your age, your height, your weight, your date of birth, what handguns you have, $5 for renewal. Every 5 years, $5 renewal. It costs $1 a year to have a handgun license. Not a big fucking deal. Okay? Mail it in. You get your license updated. It's good for another 5 years. Like your driver's license. 5 years and 5 years and 5 years. In fact, when I renewed my driver's license, I had to go to my eye doctor and have him give me an eye test and sign off on me. So it was actually harder for me to renew my driver's license than my handgun license. Now, every county in New York State is different. My buddy Speed Dog says that his county, he has to go to the judge. He has to go to the clerk. And I think they're in 2 separate buildings. I just mail it the post office does the rest. Thank you. If I tell my father to get rid of the clock, he'll tell me to get rid of the gun, so. Now, my buddy Mike from 1911 channel lives on Long Island. These guys want $200 for the application, not $10, and they want you to pay a $200 renewal fee every couple of years. I think that's a little stupid, okay? I think my county's like the best for fees and shit. New York City has the long gun license, $140 for the application, plus pay $140 every 3 years. Handgun license, $340, plus pay $340 every 3 years for renewal. I do not know how much New York City charges to register a new gun, but I imagine it's a lot. Also, New York City will not allow you to register more than 4 long guns a year. I can literally go to my dealer tonight and buy 1,000 rifles. I need a lot of money for that, but if I went to my dealer today and bought 1,000 rifles, so long as my background comes back clean, and so long as I have the money, and so long as I only transport 20 rifles at a time, which is going to take fucking forever, they are mine. Okay? They are mine. And they are mine. Ahmed the dead terrorist. Anyway. Now, other jurisdictions, like I say, in my jurisdiction, you write down the guns on the application and mail it in, and they take your word for it. And Speed Dog, you have to go in person to fill out the form and give it to them, whatever the fuck, in this county. Some areas, like Long Island and New York City, you have to physically go to the police station and show them the gun. Now, if you're ever going to go to a police department, police station, to show them a gun, do not carry a gun loaded on your body unless you yourself are a police officer. Okay? When you go to the clerk or the police officer, hand them your gun like this. Have the action already open, coming out of the bag, and hand it to them like this. That way they can verify there's no magazine. They can verify the chamber is empty. Okay? Do not take the gun out of the bag like that, because you are going to get killed. You are going to get killed. Okay? I just have to say that because there's always one fucking idiot that does that. Now, New York City is the biggest city in the East Coast. It's fucking tremendously big. It's got 8 million people in it. So, now New York City, unlike the rest of New York State, New York City is like Moscow when you have to transport a fucking gun. Okay? They want you to they want you to put the gun in the trunk of your car, put the ammunition up front. Now, Staten Island, Brooklyn, you have to go to the main police headquarters in Manhattan. If you live in Manhattan, you call a, and you don't have a car, you call a cab, tell the kid, listen, I gotta put this package in your trunk. He's probably gonna think you got a fucking bomb in the fucking package, but okay, I have a gun, I have to register it, here's the case, it's locked, I have to put it in your trunk. City law, I'm sorry. Hopefully the cab driver will cooperate. Hopefully he'll speak English. Okay, put the gun in the trunk, close the trunk, get in the car, get in the cab, drive to police headquarters, get out, open the trunk, take the gun out, go inside, show the city your gun. Go back, do the reverse. Now, if you live in Staten Island, Brooklyn, Queens, if you live many miles away from downtown Manhattan, and you don't have your own car, good luck getting a cab to take you from fucking Brooklyn or Queens down to Manhattan. Okay? You're gonna pay a lot of fucking money for that one. Staten Island also does that, according to Mike, I think. They make you go there in person to show it to them because they don't want to take your word for the fucking thing. Okay? Here in Westchester, they recognize that my gun dealer would rather tell him the truth about the gun he's just sold me than lie and risk losing his license. And in my gun dealer's case, losing his badge. He's also a police officer. So if my gun dealer commits a crime involving registration, he loses two jobs. He loses his police job, he loses his gun job. Okay, so they take your word for it. Now, like I said, some jurisdictions have registration fees that are excessive. Now, having a $340 licensing fee on your handgun, Emperor, is not going to stop some gangbang cocksucker from shooting up a neighborhood with an AK-47. Okay? It's not. It's not. Okay? So the excessive fees just fuck with my nerves sometimes, because there are people that cannot afford. Imagine if you live in New York City and you have, and believe me, New York City, that $340, as inflation goes up, that price will go up. It's not going to be like the $200 tax stamp where $200 was like $10,000 and now $200 is a little more affordable. No. $340, that will be adjusted for inflation, no question. Now, if you pay $340 every 3 years for a handgun license application in New York City, over a 30 or 40 year period, how much money are you going to give to the city? Also, people, $340, that buys a lot of groceries, that pays a lot of bills, okay? You have people with kids to feed, you have people with bills to pay, and they can think of a lot better to do with $340 than pay for an application fee, okay? New York State, it's just the application, the $10 to print in Westchester County, $10 to print the application, therefore $10 for me to buy it from you. Not a big deal, okay? $1 a year. I pay $5 every 5 years to renew, which means my handgun application costs me $1 a year. That's a fucking token number. $3 to register a new handgun. You will never see me with 7 handguns, okay? I will probably never get more than 6. So $3 times 6 handguns. The first handgun was registered for free. That's $15 I gotta pay. Not a big fucking deal. Okay? So this is token change, this is chunk change, not a big deal. But excessive fees is not gonna stop crime. It's just gonna stop legal gun owners from buying and registering and re-registering and renewing their application. It's not gonna stop crime. And if you think it is, you're full of shit. Okay? Okay? If you think that that gun registration is gonna stop crime, welcome to Rosie O'Donnell's world. Okay? A world of barbecue chicken, ice cream, and the United States government conspiring with Al-Qaeda to commit September 11th. Welcome to her world, motherfuckers. Okay. Now, people think that if the gun is registered, you can stop crime more easily. Okay? Now, if I said that an alien was talking to me, I'd go to the nut house. Yet you don't. Why? Someone goes to the store, buys the gun, takes the gun, robs the liquor store, leaves the gun on the counter under a halogen lamp. The police come, they see the gun, they see the serial number, they go to the guy's house, they arrest and they convict him. Okay. Then you wake up and you're in the real world. The gun registration does not tell us who committed the crime. The gun registration tells us who owns the gun. Keeping in mind the person who legally owned the gun had the gun stolen from them, and then the criminal committed the crime. And if you have a gun stolen or lost, most states require you to report it stolen. If they don't, my advice to you is report it stolen anyway, and maybe call a lawyer just in case some shit happens, because your gun is registered to you. Someone steals it. They commit a murder. They wore gloves during the murder. Therefore, it's most likely their fingerprints are not on the gun. Most likely. However, your fingerprints are on the gun. And it's entirely possible when the police find the gun, they find your little fingerprint on it. Okay? So you're going to have a lot of explaining to do if a cop comes to your house and says, yo, this is your gun, registered to you, your fingerprints are on it, we found next to a dead body. So, report the gun stolen, and in case you want to get, say someone wants to sue you, call a lawyer. Because someone steals your gun, usually to commit an armed robbery, the liquor store that was robbed might sue you. I don't know how far that lawsuit's going to go, but just to be on the safe side, you might want to talk to a lawyer. Okay, that's my public safety message of the day. Now, gun registration may be legal and may be constitutional, but gun confiscation is not. And if you look down, I'm going to post my couple of gun confiscation videos. I'm going to post my gun confiscation video, and then on my video there are links to other videos. Like I'm going to have one about, can guns be confiscated? And one about, do you have a constitutional right to own a gun in North Carolina? North Carolina had a law that said, North Carolina had a law, and the law said in an emergency, the government can take your guns from you. The Second Amendment Foundation, right after I made that video, like the day after I made that video, the Second Amendment Foundation won a lawsuit to abolish that law. Now, if you look down below, you'll see that video, and in that video, you'll see videos of me talking about Louisiana. So it's a video instead of a video instead of a video. Hold on a minute, please. Hello? Yeah, bye. Yeah, bye. Sorry about that. Sorry, I had a phone call to take. So, okay. Look at my videos down below. You'll see a link to the gun confiscation where I talk about guns being confiscated in New York City, guns being confiscated in California. Then the other video, I talk about the North Carolina law before it was overturned. And when you look at that video, you look below and you see an NRA series where the NRA talks about guns being confiscated in Louisiana. So you'll see two videos below here, and one of those videos has a link to other videos. Video instead of a video instead of a video. Who's on first? Okay. The guns were confiscated, but if they weren't registered, they couldn't be confiscated. That's the issue. Gun registration may be constitutional. We have car registration. But physically taking a gun from someone is not constitutional. It is a violation of the 6th Amendment. The 6th Amendment says you have your property, and the government may not take. The 6th Amendment is like a trial and shit. But the 6th Amendment says the government may not take your property or your life, meaning the death penalty, or you, meaning put you in prison. The government may not deprive you of a life, liberty, or property, thank you, clock, unless due process has been established. Like, you attempted suicide. You went to a mental institution for 3 days. The psychiatrist told a judge that you are emotionally unstable. The judge signed a search warrant. The police came to your house while you're in the nut house. They come to your house. They take away all of your guns. Suicidal people can still commit suicide even without guns, okay? So don't think the gun being taken away is the end-all solution, okay? Suicidal people need a lot of help. But that is legal. You attempted suicide. A psychiatrist said you are dangerous to yourself. A judge signed a search warrant. The police took your guns with the search warrant. That is legal. Okay? You are a convicted felon. Take the guns. You are a domestic abuser. Take the guns. And believe me, my friends, you do not want to live in a world where a convicted felon or a domestic abuser can legally buy a gun. That is one time you are going to hear me agree with the politicians. Okay? Taking someone's gun for no reason at all is not constitutional. Now, next time I am going to do a video where I go into depth about New York City's gun confiscation of the early 90s. I mentioned in one of the videos below, New York City in the early 90s physically confiscated guns. They told their citizens, you will bring your gun, if you have one of these guns, you know, AK, AR, this, that, the other thing, if you have one of these guns, or a gun with these features, regardless of when it was manufactured, regardless of how long you've had it, you will surrender it in 90 days. And we will do spot checks to make sure you're compliant. That is illegal. That is illegal. You do not have a right to deprive a law-abiding citizen of his arms. You must have a reason. Why am I taking, in my county about 12 years ago, we all get mad with, in our lives, with our girlfriends, our boyfriends, our husbands, our wives, our parents, our kids, we all get mad. There was a guy who was mad at his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend or whatever. He picked up the phone, he called her, and he left a message on her answering machine telling her what he was going to do to her. He threatened her. I don't know how far it got, I don't know what he threatened her with, but he did threaten her safety. She took the recording, brought it to the police. He was called before a judge. The judge said, this is domestic violence. She's your ex-girlfriend, you threatened her. That is domestic violence. Give me your license, give me your guns. You will never own a gun ever again as long as I sit on this bench. That's legal, because that individual person committed a crime which justified a judge declaring him a threat to public safety. Okay? But a blanket ban where you just fucking say, everybody bring your fucking gun, I don't want you to have it anymore, that's wrong. Hold on 1 second, I want to look at the law. Okay, I had it up on the screen. Haynes v. United States, 1968. The Supreme Court was asked in 1968, and I tried not to talk about this, but because there are videos with more hits than mine in the domain, and because this is a public case, and because it's been talked about in documentaries and debates, I'll talk about it now. No harm is being done. Haynes v. United States. In 1968, the Supreme Court ruled that demanding a prohibited person to register their arms is a violation of the Fifth Amendment. Okay, the Fifth Amendment says the government cannot make you testify against yourself. You can plead guilty to a crime and testify against yourself in court on your own free will in exchange for a lesser sentence to the crime you committed, but it's your choice. The government cannot force you to testify against yourself. That means if a cop beats a confession out of you, he's violated the Fifth Amendment. Now, the Fifth Amendment means you are not required to confess to crime unless you want to. You have the choice. The government can find witnesses to testify against you. The government can find evidence against you, but you cannot be forced to testify against yourself. And if you take the stand at your own trial, you can legally say, I don't want to answer that question. And you're not required to give a reason. You can just say, I don't want to answer it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to tell the truth. I'm not going to answer it. Now, when you register a gun, you fill out paperwork. You mail the paperwork into the authorities. It could be a judge. It could be a sheriff. It could be a police commissioner. It could be the governor. It could be the ATF. You fill out a form and mail it to a authoritative figure, telling the authoritative figure you own a gun. Now, I am a law-abiding citizen. Therefore, I have a right to own a gun. So when I tell the authorities I have a gun, I am not confessing to a crime. Now, a prohibited person is a person who is bound by law not to own a gun. Convicted felon, domestic abuser, right there, no gun, period. Other states have determined if you are overly psychotic, which means you hear voices in your head telling you to shit on the salad bar at Wendy's, okay? You attempted suicide. You have a full-blown alcoholic. You are a devout drug addict, okay? You are a danger to society. You have done things in the past that justify you specifically are a danger to society. You are the reason why I need a gun to protect myself from you. Therefore, you may not own a gun. Now, if you have a prohibited person filling out paperwork and presenting it to an authoritative figure saying, hey, I have a gun. The Supreme Court ruled in 1968 that is a violation of the Fifth Amendment, because owning a gun for you is a crime. And you filling out a form, mailing the form into the judge saying, Your Honor, I just bought a gun, you are confessing in writing to a crime. It's a felony for you to own a gun because you're a criminal. Therefore, you just mailed a fucking judge a full confession to a crime. Buying a gun is a crime for you. So, when the government says you must register your gun, the Supreme Court says that only applies to law-abiding citizens. So the only people required to register guns are people that are not going to hurt anybody. Now, the Supreme Court did say, I'm pointing at the monitor. I have it up on the screen. I'm pointing at the monitor. I don't want to think I'm a fucking psycho just pointing at things. There's the pink elephant. The Supreme Court also said in 1968, if the government catches you, they can punish you. And if you're caught with a gun and you're a prohibited person, you will be punished. But the Supreme Court says you cannot be forced to register your gun. Now, if I were a judge, I have to stand neutral. I can't be for gun owners, I can't be against gun owners, I have to be neutral. That's why the judge sits on the bench. The judge is the highest person in the court physically. The judge sits in the middle, defendant, plaintiff, or defendant, prosecutor. Okay? Because the judge must preside. The judge is the authoritative figure presiding. He is the better person in the room. Therefore, he cannot take a side. He has to hear all sides equally. That's why justice is blind. If I were a judge, not an NRA member, I would say, okay, you have a right to register guns. However, keep in mind, the only people registering the guns are law-abiding citizens. But you do not have a right to confiscate the guns. And I'm going to do a whole study on New York City next time. That confiscation they did in the early 90s. Okay? You do not have a right to confiscate the guns. And I would say flat out, if the authorities are confiscating guns, they must prove on a case-by-case basis why each and every individual is a danger to society. And if the authorities cannot prove that you are a danger to society, they do not have a right to take your gun. If you've proven you're a danger to society, they should take your gun. But unless you prove you are a danger to society, they cannot take your gun. That's what I would rule if I was a judge and I was asked that question, and that's what I'm ruling now. Okay? So at one point, I'm not bothered by registration. If I was paying $200 every couple of years, or $340 every couple of years, then I'd be bothered by it. But I understand that registration is an excuse for the government to take guns away sometimes. I also understand that the person least likely to commit a crime is registering the gun. The criminal is not. So it's just a useless endeavor. It may not be unconstitutional, but it's a useless endeavor. And confiscation of guns without proper cause is a violation of the Second Amendment and the Sixth Amendment. Thank you.